up, where you have
for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Change, I am blessing AG. I'm excited this morning, super excited if you like. I don't share the joy alone. Lots of Nigerians share the joy owing to the outcome of the match played yesterday between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Bafana of South Africa. Well, just to confess, I wasn't optimistic about that game, but yes, they won, and you know, victory belongs to everybody, as success has lots of friends. So that also opened my eyes to something. Now, talking about the Nigerian economy, there are some persons who have given up and to themselves said this economy will never pick up, where you have the dollar exchanging to the naira at the parallel market at about 1,500 naira. It's not a very good time for business people, particularly those who do import. But like I was pessimistic about the outcome of yesterday's game, some persons, like I said, are pessimistic about the Nigerian economy. But you know that things can turn around. How would it turn around is what we're looking at today on Early Exchange. Femi Ayodele, I know because he's a man, well, it doesn't have to do with gender, but naturally when it comes to sports and football, men take a natural liking to it, and I'm sure he was optimistic that the Super Eagles would deliver yesterday. Please don't tell me I'm wrong. Good morning, Femi.
Good morning, Blessing. It's interesting to know that you have vast interest in sport, and the Super Eagles, they made us proud yesterday. In fact, yesterday, my mind was like, oh, I was under pressure as well, just like every other Nigerian.
You see, that pressure is what I don't like, being on the edge.
No, it happens. That's the beauty of the game, because somehow you can't predict what will happen. It's a game that could go either way.
I rather you tell me the scores and then I go back to watch the match.
Interesting. But one good thing about sport is just one unifying factor. There's nothing about religion when it comes to sport. It unites everybody, and I'm quite happy that yes, we are proud for spending our time to watch that kind of match, and that's quite great.
And like I confessed, because Souq Rogers was looking at me when I talked about the game. He wanted to point to me. You didn't expect them to win. So what are you talking about? You can't blame me from past experiences. Sometimes we expect the guys to do well, they don't do well. But I'll leave that analysis for Souq Rogers and Juvie to do that on Souq Sport later at noon.
Uses the word condo.
Okay.
I'm sure that will come out of that. All right. Glad to know you are there with us. It's interesting to bring a kind of correlation between sport and economy. There's always the business side of everything, and that's why we're starting today by looking at the state of the economy. We're going to have conversation making reference to the kind of interaction that happened between the CBN governor and the Senate Committee on Banking and Finance. Don't forget, this is your program. It means your voice can be heard. All you just have to do is to go on a social media platform, on a YouTube page, to share your view using the hashtag Early Exchange. Now let's set the ball rolling with news update, and that will take place shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to News Update. I am Juvie Ofiene. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has officially commenced oil production from the Akpo West field, achieving a daily output of 14,000 barrels. This milestone was announced by the Chief Corporate Communications Officer, Olufemi Shoneye. According to him, this will add 14,000 barrels per day of condensate to the nation's production, with plans to increase gas production to about 4 million cubic meters per day by 2028. utilizing the expiring Akpo floating production, storage, and offloading facility via a subsea tie back on petroleum mining lease PMLO2. The project not only controls production costs, but also showcases a dedication to the sustainable energy practices, minimizing greenhouse gas emissions. This solidifies the company's role as a pivotal player in Nigeria's energy sector, contributing significantly to economic growth and energy sustainability. Nigeria Interbank Settlement System (PLC) (NIBSS) says electronic payments in the country soared to 600 trillion naira in 2023, hitting a record high with a 55% increase from 2022 as more Nigerians embrace cashless transactions. December marked the peak with 71.9 trillion naira spent on electronic channels during the festive period. The NIBSS recorded an all-time high of 1.1 billion e-payment transactions in March 2023 due to cash scarcity. Annual transaction processed by NIBSS rose from 5.1 billion in 2022 to 9.7 billion in 2023, a 90% increase. The monthly breakdown revealed a steady rise, reaching 71.9 trillion naira in December. The NIBSS Instant Payment (NIP) platform played a crucial role, offering instant interbank transactions since its launch in 2011. The growth is attributed to the revised cashless policy and increased adoption of mobile transfers and digital payments by Nigerians. Away from Nigeria, Benin Republic has reached a milestone with its inaugural dollar-dominated bond issuance, attracting a subscription of $5 billion despite aiming to raise only $750 million. This oversubscription on totaling $4.25 billion reflects a robust investors' confidence in the country's macroeconomic outlook. Finance Minister Ramoud Wadagni noted that proceeds from the 14-year bonds issued at a rate of 8.38% will contribute to financing the nation's 2024 budget. This comes on the heels of Ivory Coast's successful $2.6 billion Eurobond auction, raising questions among experts as the yield rates of Benin's bond closely match those of the regional counterparts. Benin's impressive economic growth, projected at an average of 6.4% from 2024 to 2025, coupled with its stable macroeconomic indicators, has positioned it favorably in international financial markets. Finally, in what is regarded as the first collaboration between business and the EU on matters relating to artificial intelligence (AI), global technology firms have expressed their commitment to ethical AI development at the UNESCO Global Forum on the Ethics of AI in Slovenia. These firms, including Lenovo Group, LG AI Research, MasterCard, Microsoft, Salesforce, GSMA, NNIT, and the Telefonica, pledged to ensure human rights throughout AI's life cycle, conduct due diligence for safety compliance, and take prompt action against adverse effects. While speaking at the event, UNESCO's Director General, Andre Azoulay, urges tech stakeholders to follow suit, emphasizing the importance of public-private cooperation for AI advancements. Ethical AI involves fair, clear, accountable, and value-respecting AI systems, aligning with UNESCO's dedication to AI in education, adhering to inclusivity and fairness. International Energy Agency (IAE) has projected India to surpass China as the largest driver of global oil demand growth from 2023 to 2030, expected to increase by nearly 1.2 million barrels per day (BPD). India's demand will contribute over a third of the projected 3.2 million barrels per day global gains. The agency predicts India's oil demand to reach 6.6 million barrels per day by 2030, up from 5.5 million barrels per day in 2023. To meet this surge, India plans to add 1 million barrels per day of new refining capacity, driving crude imports to 5.8 million barrels per day by 2030. Diesel will lead demand growth, followed by industrial expansion, while electric vehicle adoption would temper gasoline demand growth. And that's all there is for now. Many thanks for watching. I am Juvi Ufiene. Early Exchange continues in a bit.
All right, thank you, Juby, for the news update. I'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll look at issues related to the economy and the efforts being made by the Central Bank of Nigeria to address some of the issues raised on the floor of the House on Tuesday. Stay with us.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana. My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching Souq
News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need the same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing H.A., Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, today we'll be shaping policy and advancing development as expected, and as we always do on this show, looking at the state of the economy. You know, we're going to make reference to the interaction that happened between the CBN governor, Yemi Kaduso, and the Senate Committee on Banking and Finance on Tuesday, where the central bank governor was summoned to look at the state of the economy, and certain issues came up in the course of that interaction. We're going to look at some of the highlights that has to do with the issue of the free fall of the naira. What should be the next step to be taken by the central bank to address the issue of the naira, and what should be done holistically when you talk about the issue of the economy? I know as Nigerians we're bothered about the exchange rate, and that's why you need to be part of this conversation. All you just have to do is go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, to share your view on the state of the economy and looking at the state of the naira. But we're going to bring another perspective to it by looking at what should be done in a situation like this. And we have an in-house analyst with us. We have Dr. Idahosa Osamanzi, who joins us on set as usual. Good morning, glad to have you here.
Femi, good morning. My pleasure to be here as always. Blessing, good morning. Congratulations for that deserving victory yesterday.
Oh, it's interesting to know you follow sport as well.
Oh, I do.
Oh, great. How did you feel yesterday?
I felt great.
You felt like a Nigerian, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You see that on my DM. It's all there.
Okay.
Celebrating myself and the great country I believe in Nigeria. I know our potentials. People may not want to believe us, but we can spring surprises. Remember the miracle of the Dama.
Yes.
So it's not today. We always done that from time to time. So it's a joy that in the midst of all the challenges and difficulty, sport brought joy to the faces of millions and thousands of Nigerians. Yesterday, I can feel it in the air. Everybody low, high, hungry, full, everybody happy, celebrating the victory that is done. And I was saying to somebody last night, we are truly one. We are Nigeria, one Nigeria, and there is nothing separating us.
Sports has always been the unifier.
Yeah, and so we can actually leverage that to, if you had watched the Invictus, one movie that depicted on how Nelson Mandela managed the crisis in South Africa immediately after taking over. You see, he leveraged on rugby to build a one South Africa. And I think that is what the managers of Nigerian economy and Nigerian polity we really need to learn from and see how to manage all the contradictions in Nigeria using one instrument that brings us together. You see people from the north putting up Stanley's status on their the pictures of Stanley on their status bar without necessarily realizing that this man is from the southeast. You hear people shouting on Seaman without necessarily knowing it's from the south. Sanusi was there. You see, this is what makes us. And I think what really we need to know is that people are not aggrieved or fighting because they don't like the background of people. It's just that people are not delivering value. Like Blessing said earlier, victory or success has so many friends and family, except failure.
It's interesting to know that we have to start this way, but
Failure
I understand.
No more than the father.
All right, if Nigeria is recording success in sports, let's look at the economy. What will happen? And we are hopeful too as well that with what the CBN governor is doing, we'll get a better result. But let's look at the issue. You know, the House Committee on Banking and Finance had to summon the CBN governor on Tuesday, looking at the state of the economy. Of course, they should be bothered. They were bothered, and they had to summon the CBN governor to defend the statistics that you have, looking at the state of the inflation and also looking at the free fall of the naira. Now, before we look at the highlights of that conversation, because you also had the Minister of Finance who also took turn to talk about the economy, and then the Minister of the Budget.
But it really is, it's not a committee. It was actually the entire House.
Yeah, but
House of Reps.
But it started from the Senate Committee on Banking and Finance.
It was actually the House of Reps
who did the summon, and then
who
you
had a plenary to interact with the managers of the economy and see how synergy can be built to deliver the renewed hope agenda. So this was heard in the plenary of the House of Reps. The chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service was there. The Minister for Project and National Planning was there. The coordinating minister for the economy was there, and then the governor of the CBN. And these people are very critical to the kind of expectations that Nigerians hold. You look at it from the fiscal point and then from the monetary aspect. So both sides were in the chambers to see what are we doing really. So we hear from the fiscal side, we hear from the monetary side. And if you listen to Kalu, who sat for the Speaker of the House of Rep, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, he emphasized that what is required at the moment, and that of course was very instructive for me, was a synergy between the fiscal and the monetary policy. That harmony is critical. And in the last administration, that was quite missing. Why the governor of CBN was trying to see how to regulate the influx of cash into the economy, which was one of the primary drivers of inflation. The guys, on the other hand, were doing plenty of programs that we're introducing finances. So you're trying to solve a problem here, then this person is creating problem. So that lack of coordination really was a big burden. And I also was happy that the National Assembly also made a pledge that where there are lacunas in the area of legislation, whether there are new legislation to be written or some to be repealed, so that they both can work together. He also made that promise, and I'm hopeful, like Wale Edun said, the chairman of FR said that bill is already on ground to that effect. And of course, the Minister of Budget and National Planning also said they have also written a bill to look at some of all those issues and see how to address them. So for me, it was a very good meeting. The members of National Assembly, especially the lower house, carrying the emotions and the sentiment of the people, especially in the wake of the protest in Kano and in Niger State, and yesterday in very close to Abuja, in Suleja, extending from Niger, closing in on Abuja. But I think by and large for me, it was very timely that Nigerians need to hear where we are going toward and how the bumpy the ride likely might be.
All right, at a meeting on Tuesday, the ministers or those involved wrote out what they've done since assumption of office. Now, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, also wrote out what his office has been doing, and the CBN governor wrote out what the CBN has been doing as well. Now, one key thing he said going forward is dropping inflation, reducing inflation from 28.92% that is currently at to 21% in the year 2024. And he also added that the monetary policy for now is going to be very restrictive, and he said that's going to come with lots of repercussions. Do you see that talk about reducing inflation from 28.92% to 21% within a year as mere rhetorics, or you think that with what the CBN has outlined is going to work?
Well, I think the projection for me is rather very ambitious for the CBN. Also watching Bismarck Rewano on another channel saying that what government really needs to do is to tell the people the truth. Like they say in the Holy Book, when you know the truth makes you free. We cannot continue to promise our people things that are not possible. As we speak, we know what are the drivers of the inflation here, and especially the commodity prices, which are on the high roof. Everything we do really here in Nigeria, people talk about the dollarization of Nigerian economy, because even the woman who is blending pepper in the street, if he has to fix that machine, the parts are not made here. So they have to be imported from somewhere in China. And of course, you have to look for dollar to do the importation. So as the parts of those machines are getting higher, of course, the woman on the street will need to definitely charge more. Now, he's also using petrol to run that small engine. And if the cost of petroleum is getting up, of course, it will also affect what pricing that is done. Now, in terms of logistics, goods that are moved from farm to the market also require a lot of logistics, because you need to buy petrol or diesel, whichever applies, to be able to convey your product to where they should be. Now, all these things are what are impacting the prices of commodity as we speak, and that is the greatest driver of inflation in Nigeria. Now, what is CBN or the Minister of Economy, Coordinating Minister of the Economy or Finance going to do in the immediate is not something that we can see happen like yesterday. It can happen because, number one, they don't have control as we speak over the exchange rate. And this is one conversation that Nigerians don't want to hear. You know, some years ago, I was talking with people, and I was saying to them that if Buhari leaves office, a lot of people will have to be rejoicing 10 years down the line that he was one of the great leaders that Nigeria had. Because many people don't understand how economy works. They just feel that once a government is on seat, it will just wake up one morning and say, dollar is 1 to 1. Things don't work that way. So one man cannot determine how the economy of a nation is run. Now, there's a whole lot of synergy that needs to happen for this kind of prediction to come into play. Now, what that will mean is that we have to reduce importation. But I think there were some few things that could happen that can reverse that trend, which is what, of course, the minister of, the governor of CBN spoke to in that meeting. It is the volume that Nigerians are spending on training their children abroad or going on medical expedition abroad. Whooping 40 billion in the last how many years? And that's massive. And they put the statistics. Nigerians who are in studying in UK, Canada, and France put at about 100 and something thousand Nigerians who are relying on our economy to school abroad. That's a problem, and that put pressure on the FS. We will need to take a drastic measure to say, look, if you have a child outside, don't even come across to be looking for forest. Now, do I have to go to the parallel market to get? And so it's what they get in the parallel market they are going to buy. So it will be very difficult for the CBN to actually will determine to say, okay, we are not giving you dollar. But they can't do that. It can only come from within banks, and banks don't have dollars. So it's the bureau that are looking for dollar. They can go to Niger to buy dollar and come to sell it at whatever cost they want to do. So as long as Nigeria will not have confidence in the things around us here, it will be difficult to bring inflation down. So CBN can't do it alone, Finance Ministry can't do it alone, but we need the whole of Nigerians. You know, I was following Reno Omokri on his X page yesterday, and he said, look, the more of MTN you do, the more you help South Africa than you help Nigeria. So I think at this point, Nigerians need to deliberately be nationalistic and patriotic about things around them. Let's patronize things that are done locally. Let's scale up some of the things we're doing in terms of food production so that we're not putting pressure on the Naira. So once Naira can be stable for a period of maybe 6 months or 3 months, then of course you can think about a reversal in terms of the trend of inflation. If we be objective, if NBS will be objective in terms of data analysis, I'm going to see that maybe by next month, the inflation rate will have been around 30%, which is what we have done.
Let me point your attention to a statement credited to the Minister of Finance, which has been generating controversy. I'm going to read it so that you can have a proper understanding of what he said. He said, when Nigeria is economically, is far much better than where it was on 29 May 2023. The country at that time had expenditure that was wasteful and unsustainable. How do you react to this? It's been generating controversies.
Well, it's a known fact that we're spending hard-earned money of Nigeria to support dollar. I'll give you one simple instance. Between 2018 and 2023, the CBN was paying 500 naira to every dollar that came into Nigeria.
Indirectly subsidizing the dollar.
Oh, yes. So if your relative send you $1,500 from abroad, the CBN will pay you 1,500 naira for having dollar come into this economy.
Are you referring to the naira for dollar policy?
No. It was not naira for dollar. It was just incentive alone to see if those in the diaspora will bring in money to the economy. And this was different from the fact that CBN were mopping up and even mortgaging the future of the country to ensure that dollar was selling at that rate, which was not the actual market rate. Nigerians must come to terms with all this reality, because you have a government at that time who was pro-people, and in their thinking, if you allow dollar to sell at its actual price, Nigeria will not be able to stand it. So we were deceiving ourselves, and we were taking money, we were printing money to ensure that we ameliorate the situation that we're on ground, which was what our government was trying to do. And then, of course, we were afraid to increase the price of petrol, which was also not realistic. And government was spending trillions and trillions of naira to ensure that Nigerians get petrol. And all these things were what we were carrying. And I can tell you, if this government has moved on that trajectory for just 1 month, Nigeria would have collapsed.
Are you sure of that? Because it's also a known fact that before May 29, 2023, the dollar was exchanging at around 400 naira.
Yes.
And then with the floating of the naira at the parallel market, it's about 1,500 naira. Which do you think would have been a collapsing situation?
That is what I'm saying. What you see, what you should...
With what was happening then and what is happening now.
Now, this is what you need to understand in economic terms. Naira was selling at 430 at the official window, Abi. The government was selling naira to people at 430. Now, what you just need to understand is that the difference between the 1.5 we are selling today and the 430 was borne by the government.
I understand that.
Now, where would that money come from? That money was not coming from anywhere because Nigeria don't have revenue. The only source of revenue you had was from oil. So what the government had to do was that, number one, they have to sell the oil, the crude, upfront. They sell the crude upfront to receive money. Now, you imagine that if government has sustained this one, number one, they don't have crude to sell. What would they have given to the petroleum company to be able to give you petrol? The government would have crumbled. This is the reality. Nigeria must come to terms with this, that when you see issues and you are not facing reality and you are trying to look good in the face of citizens, you get yourself into trouble. That is why we are where we are today. So what the current regime is trying to do is to see, let's put the cards on the table so that even if government is going to intervene, we are going to have issues. The other time we were talking about crude. Why will Dangote go and bring crude from America? Because the crude that is produced today has already been sold by the past regime.
All right, talking about intervening, because the minister, the finance minister, Wale, also talked about the government's palliative plans and the effort of the government to cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy. Now, I agree that the government is making more money now than it used to make before the removal of subsidy. But let's look at the palliative measures, the businesses that to receive all of that cushion months down the line, from what we see and the groanings of businesses. In your assessment, do you think that cushion is enough for the economy?
Well, I am not a fan of palliative, so to speak, and I've never seen anywhere in the world, globally, speaking in economic terms, where palliative has helped anybody, even by law of nature. My father didn't go to school, so he didn't know economics. But he understands that if a man is not hardworking, that man cannot survive. If he has to depend on handouts from other people. So the prospect of survival is small. So that's a point. So when you keep talking about palliative, I also heard in the National Assembly and one of the honorable standing up to say, oh, our people are expecting 25,000 and they have not received it. Now, let's even assume they are going to pay them the 25,000 for how long? Is it for 1 month? For 2 months? How would that solve the problem of the people? And I think this is where we need to have the really serious conversation. I was saying to somebody yesterday, what government could be thinking in terms of palliative or social intervention is to see how government can critically intervene in the manufacturing sector, for example, how government can critically intervene in the agri-value chain, for example. Take, for example, government can look at the whole of South and see what the dominant farm produce that is coming in from there and try to set up a factory run by government, but the people who want to produce just simply go into the factory, pay a token to the government, produce there, and then they go to sell. So Femi don't need to own a tissue factory, for example. All he just needs is a brand. He takes that brand to the factory. The factory produces for him. He goes out to go and sell and make money. You don't need to own a tomato processing factory. All government need to do is build a factory that can produce tomato. And, for example, it's also flexible enough to produce other products in the agri-value chain. So all that you need to do is that you want to sell a brand of tomato paste. You don't need to own a factory. All you need is a brand name. You get to the factory, tell them this is what you want to produce, they roll it out for you, you pay them a token, and they come. Now, once government is able to invest in those productive sectors of the economy, people will have something to be doing. And this is what China has done successfully. So they've created factories everywhere that Nigerians don't need to own factory. If they want to make shoe, they just do the design of the shoe, send it to China, they produce it in China, and they ship it down here. Americans want to produce electric bulb. They don't need to own the factory. The factory is already in China. They send the design to China. The factory is there, produce it, return it here. So the factories are so flexible that when, of course, COVID happened, they didn't need to build new factories. They just have to switch the production process to produce this PPP that was used during the COVID. So this is what government can do for its people. Now, all those 2 billion that was sent to states that are wasted in palliative, you would have used it and converted it into productive venture. And by now, we'll not be talking about hunger. So government need to think right. So we have to agree of what do we want to do? Is it to give food to the people, or do we want just to make people feel good for a moment and then go a hunger?
All right. The conversation is getting interesting, but we need to go on a break now. We'll be right back to discuss more, and the conversation will get bigger. Stay with us.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq and Lights. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamas.
Still a deficit budget, we're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, if you're just joining us, you have no cause to worry. We're still shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation on the state of the economy, making reference to efforts being made by the CBN to address some of the critical issues raised in the floor of the House on Tuesday. We still have our wise man here with us. Dr. Idahosa is still here with us. All right. Let's make reference to some of the highlights raised by the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun. He also talked about the fact that they've been able to reduce the consumption of petrol to about 20 million liters. And I'm wondering, is it something to celebrate? Is it about the fact that transparency has been brought to the system due to the removal of fuel subsidy, or the fact that Nigerians realized that there is a hike in the price of petrol and decided to cut their expenses?
Well, I think it's neither here nor there. For me, really, I don't think people should be celebrating efforts. We should look at the global outcome of whatever efforts that we put in. The result itself should be what we should celebrate and see how has this translated into good life for the people who are living here. But you see, what really has happened is the fact that with the removal of petrol subsidy, the price of petrol was almost becoming at par with neighboring countries. And so the incentive to come here to take petrol was reduced. Because most of those petrols that we say we're consuming were really not being consumed by Nigerians. Because you have a very cheap market that your government was subsidizing. So foreigners were coming in here and to make a big kill of your generosity, so to speak. So this is what actually has happened. Just like you're seeing that there's a trigger in the north about high cost of living. Now, what's responsible? People from Mali, people from Chad, people from Niger Republic, they have swamped into the whole of the north to buy off the grain because it's cheap. And now the people who live in these areas can't afford what is there because it's competitive. You're having people who are your neighbor who are suffering higher hunger than you, and what you think was expensive for them was an opportunity. So they took advantage of it and buy it off. Now you don't have food, so you have a problem. So this is what we as Nigerians must realize, that as much as we feel government should be there for us as a people, there's a limit to the burden that government can carry. And this is what it is. So people can have options. What I had hoped to see today from the side of government is that we are now having many more mass transit programs, interstate buses that are commuting people from one location to the other. Now, if you come to Lagos, for example, BRT is not competitive anymore, because what the commercial buses are taking is what BRT is taking, so same price. It's not competitive. Now, for the economy of scale, we expect that they should charge less, and that will take a whole lot of burden from the people. Before now, BRT used to have air-conditioned buses. That somebody like Femi, who is on tie and coming to work in the morning like this, should sit down comfortably in an air-conditioned vehicle that's commuting him from where he's coming from to the place of work. He can feel comfortable sitting down in there. Today, BRT has not it. He has turned into Molwe. 39 sitting, 99 standing. So this is the situation, and this is the reality. So what government should have been celebrating at this point is actually looking at a situation where you have made provision for alternative. Mass buses, 100 flying Lagos to Kano, Lagos to Bauchi, Lagos to Akwa Ibom, Lagos to Port Harcourt. All these things will help reduce even the more consumption of petrol. We have heard all about the CNG buses. Haven't seen much of them around, especially interstate commuting. So this is where we should have been celebrating some win. But however, it's not that government hasn't made some marks. So some of all those savings that we're talking about, people must understand that these are virtual money. They are not hard cash that is within CBA, which is the money that the government said they have saved. So the concept of saving here is not that you have not spent what you have. The concept of saving here is that what you would have spent, you did not spend. So Nigeria must be able to differentiate these two kinds of savings. That when government says we have saved money, it's not meaning that government has used some of money kept somewhere that has not been used, and they are saving it for a purpose. But what government is simply saying is that what we used to spend to buy petrol, to subsidize electricity, to do forest, we are no longer spending it. In which case, we are not printing money and we are not taking too much of debt or borrowings to run our projects.
Okay, the CBN governor was making reference to reports from international rating agencies. Now, is it healthy to look at or to depend on international rating agencies like Moody's and the others to determine the health of the economy? Now, he says that reports from international rating agencies like Moody rates the Nigerian economy from stable to positive.
Positive, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. You see, this is what you're looking at. You are looking to China, looking to India, looking to America for foreign direct investment or portfolio investment, whichever one. Now, for somebody to bring money to put in your economy, he must be sure that you are doing the right things. That is the first motivation for a foreigner to bring in investment into your economy. So what this rating does is that it's global rating. So when people in China see this, people in India see this, people in America see this, or anywhere across the globe, and they see that your rating is now moving, that you are not just static, that you are growing, that there are potential for profit in your environment, which of course is the primary motivation and driver for business. So they will be able to bring in their money to set in your economy. So this is the value that our rating brings to us as a people. So it's like a collateral we can take to the international community so that we can get foreign direct investment, which of course the president is trusting to leverage on rather than borrowing to solve Nigerian problems. So once the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund and other agencies are saying that you are taking the right steps in terms of driving economy to making your economy competitive, that you are not protectionist, you are not trying to gag profit making. So it means that you are taking the right step. And this is what Nigeria must understand, that really our problem is not about exchange rate.
What is it about then?
Our problem is value creation. You know, in the normal street economies, local people in the village tell you, you sell as you buy. Abi? So there's no quarrel If I buy at 20,000, I put my margin on it. Now, what is important is that this other person is able to actually create value to be able to raise that volume. There are nations, for example, that our currencies are better than. That doesn't stop them. Even China is deliberately devaluing their currency against the dollar. So it's not the exchange rate that is the problem. What is the problem is the earning power of the people, which is the PPP, the purchasing power parity, that the average Nigerian is not earning so well. Those who employ cannot pay because there's no value that we are selling. So if, for example, like Labour is proposing, we can look at it and say exchange rate is 1,005, and what Nigeria is going to pay its worker minimum wage like they do in the UK is just £2,005, and convert that to Naira equivalent. So we can have the same living standard with UK. That's what people are talking about. So, but if you convert £2,005 at 1,800 or 1,900, you know what that is in Naira term. So you are having volume of Naira. I remember when I traveled to Ghana in 2006, I wanted to buy a SIM card. I bought it at 5 million cedis.
5 million cedis.
And I said, oh wow, I didn't know I was a millionaire. So, but you see, this is what it is. But you see, these are all there in the market. People have it. So this is really the issue. It's not about what we are changing with Naira, because we're actually not spending Naira here. It's the fact that people are empowered enough with disposable income to be able to purchase. So as they are selling, then they are doing, the business is happening, they are earning, and then they can buy. This is what the focus should really be. How do we drive value within the system? And that's what we solve our problem, not what exchange rate is talking about.
Are they not connected?
Well, yeah, the level of connection is minimal, because those who will be looking for dollar will be those who want to live luxury, as we say. So if you say the universities in Nigeria are not good for your children, you want to send them abroad, then of course you go and look for your dollar. If you say you cannot use St. Nicholas or other hospitals that are here, then you want to go to India, then you go and look for dollar.
But looking at the health sector, for those who go for medical tourism, if you want to have access to a doctor, maybe as often as you would need using the private hospitals, they're also very expensive.
You see, Nigerians must tell themselves simple truths. I was in Paris the other day, and one of our colleagues, we went together, wanted to assess medication. They gave him appointment for 2 months. I hope every Nigerian understands. The reason why we don't patronize our general hospital is say that the queue is too much. We can't wait. But we can wait for appointment of 2 years in London. They don't tell you to come today. So you start to process today. They give you appointment long way enough.
What about the issue of facilities and the equipment at the disposal of the doctors? It's also a factor.
Yeah, but this is the point I'm making. And I will keep making this very important point. We have some hospitals that are fully equipped, even within Lagos here, with the right doctors. Quality, the same you can find anywhere in the world. We don't travel abroad because there are no equipment. We travel abroad because we don't believe in ourselves. And I think that's the most important thing. And we must tell ourselves honest truth. Because the services they are even getting abroad, they get far better here. You see, because when you put value into it, I see life much more expensive outside than here. If you go to a hospital and they're charging you $1,000, for example, abroad, you don't see it as so much, have you? But if you come here and they charge you 1 million naira, you think that people are exploiting you. But in value terms, if you look at current exchange rate today, you still see you are cheaper if somebody is charging 1 million here. So that's the problem. So what we don't want to pay for our services, we're always willing to pay it to other people. This is where the challenge is. So once we can reduce our dependence on the things that we get abroad, we cannot completely write them off that we are not going to import anything from abroad. But there are basic things we don't need to import.
Like toothpick.
Yeah.
All right.
These are the issues.
Let's, we made reference to the issue of fixing the exchange rate, and let's make reference to the court ruling. The legal icon, Femi Falana, went to court, to compel the court to rule that the CBN and the federal government should fix the exchange rate and prices of goods and services, which the court has also ruled that the federal government or the CBN should do that in the next 7 days. How do you see this playing out? And then looking at the act that establishes the CBN, of course, we can't go into the details of the ruling, but do you see compliance on the part of the federal government or the CBN, and will that be a straight way to fix the problem, looking at the prices of goods and services?
You see, Nigerians like to speak from both sides of the mouth. And this is what pains me. Even an elite like Femi Falana should understand the basis on how economy works. It's simple. You are complaining on one bread that government is borrowing. You are complaining on one bread that there's leakages in revenue which government cannot collect, and therefore government has no more money. Now you are going to compel government to go and borrow money to subsidize the luxury of some few people. That's ambivalent. The problem in Nigeria is the elite. They are a problem. Once they have interest and they are pushing their interests and they are driving government, pushing here and there, we cannot really sit down to articulate and think about our problem. That's for me. It's an abuse, with very sense of respect to Femi Falana. It's an abuse of court process. And we have been doing this, and this is why even investors can't come to Nigeria. Because we abuse, we shop for injunctions and all manners of whatnot in the night, in the dead of the night, from court system that is so corrupt. This is a problem. So when you are saying government should peg at what? Do Nigerian government print dollars?
Perhaps.
Do I go to determine what cost input goes into production of anything? Somebody said yesterday that to cultivate 1 hectare of land to produce rice in Nigeria is about 950,000 naira. Who is going to pay the difference? Is it Falana? These are the issues that we have to engage ourselves. So we don't just go and make ourselves popular unnecessarily to say, oh, you're advocate of the masses. But you have to be also realistic and tell government, how does this money come so that we can solve this problem? And not just go to pontificate. Government can do anything. I was listening to a team of professors making some conversation the other day, and I asked myself, everybody knows the problem. Everybody in Nigeria knows the problem. What we don't have is a solution. Just tell us a clue what you are going to do differently if you were the president of Nigeria.
All right. I could understand why you reacted that way. But let's wrap up this conversation looking at what should be the call or the wake-up call for the CBN governor. Talk about what the CBN should do in short term and in long term, addressing some of those critical issues related to hiking prices of foods and commodities and products, because the truth is Nigerians are hungry, and you saw the protest that was springing up almost yesterday and was being curtailed. For that not to happen or snowball into something that couldn't be of crisis, what should the CBN do in collaboration with the federal government on short-term basis?
I don't think it's what should CBN do. It's what should Nigerians do. I grew up in this country. I was raised in the village. All the food we ate, our chicken, the goat we kill, they were all reared in our backyard. This is what we're talking about. When you have a nation that is not productive, and everybody is waiting for another person to come and give him food, what will CBN do? to go and buy food and be sharing in Nigeria. That can't work.
Is it purely an issue of Nigerians not being productive or not being productive enough? Or there are factors that makes it difficult for businesses and production to thrive?
Sister Blessing, there is just a simple law of demand and supply in determination of the price of goods. That's why you see tomatoes today, if you go to the market, the basket is cheap. Tomorrow when you go, it's off-season, it's expensive. So that's nature determined. So if you have very few tomatoes, everybody is struggling to buy. So the person who is selling increases the price. So if you have to solve that problem, how do you deal with it? You increase your production.
But you understand that farmers at this in this country, a lot of them get the funding, everything by themselves, and it's still at subsistence level compared to countries where there's a food security and government has done some intervention to make sure that there is food even off season.
If they do a thorough audit of the Anchor Borrowers Program from 2015 to 2023, so many Nigerians will be in prison. Now, this is a point I'm making. People took this money from CBN. They took this money from NISA to go and do farm. Where are the farm? I know certain people who went to Benin to go and do farm. We can't see the farm.
So who's to be held responsible?
This is the issue.
Money to people, are you not supposed to
now this is the problem. This is the collusion and the collaboration of the elite to degrade the Nigerian people. You, as you are sitting down here, you can't get Anchor Borrower Fund from NISA, except you are among the ruling class. Whether in the politics or in the business, all the business people took the money and diverted it to something else, all in the name that they were going to the farm. They are the one who has control over the court processes. They are the one who can purchase sand, who can purchase judges. The poor people don't have access. This is a problem. A program that is meant to benefit the poor man who is on the street, they who are the elite stand in the front and take it on behalf of their people. This is the thing we are fighting in Nigeria, and this is the truth that needs to be said. So when you are hearing people talking from both sides of the mouth, they are all beneficiary of this evil system.
The conversation is getting more interesting, and we are being tempted to extend it, but we have to resist that temptation.
Thank you, Ferry.
Thank you so much for your thoughts and your submission as regards this issue related to the economy. I know, you're passionate about Nigeria, and like every one of us, and we hope that things will get better soon. All right, we just have to wrap up that conversation. We can now have another conversation. It's important for us to create a balance. And the second conversation will kick off shortly after this break. Stay with us.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for? And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget, we're still going to borrow as much as up to 7 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, you're still on to Early Exchange. We're still looking at issues related to the economy. And now we want to look at the plan by the Federal Inland Revenue to look at the issue of regulating online contents and also taxing creators, online creators and content creators, talking about social media influencers. How is this going to turn out? Will this not amount to double taxation? What will be the framework for this kind of taxation? This will be the thrust of our conversation now. But let me find out from Blessing. Blessing?
Yes.
You know, I don't want to say Sister Blessing, like somebody said it.
Dr. Dosa was just being sarcastic.
All right. So, you know, the issue of tax reforms has been on the table, looking at the effort being made by, I like making reference to that committee, the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele and the rest of them. There are a lot of initiatives coming on board, and they made several recommendations on how to create tax reforms in Nigeria. But one of the things that the agency involved is looking at to tax online content creators, the social media influencers, and there are concerns how this is going to turn out, because these are people in one way or the other, they are paying taxes already, and now to come up with regulating online content or creating a framework of taxes some of the content being created, how this is going to turn out has been of concern to some people. But the question is, if the framework, if the policy is coming up with the right framework, coming up with the right, there's transparency and people can understand the need for it. Just like the way it's being done abroad, of course. You don't have that kind of system here. And the FRS is also thinking of creating this kind of template so that it's easier to tax online content. But let's see, before I find out from you, let's see what our guests will have to say about this. We'll go on a short breakdown for us to reconnect with our guest, and then he will be in position to give us his own impression about this new policy. Stay with us.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News. Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News. Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Orubuje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget, we're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's time for us to discuss issues related to tax payment for content creators and influencers, and we have our special guest analyst with us here. We're being joined by Richard Adeyemo, a legal practitioner, popularly known as celebrity lawyer. Richard, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning. It's been a while.
Yeah, Happy New Year, family. Nice to be back.
I hope you can hear me, Richard. Now, let me have your first-hand reaction to this effort being made to tax content creators and influencers as a lawyer to some of them. How will you react to this?
Well, it's not unheard of that individuals should pay taxes to their government. So, it's perfectly normal. So, I'm not exactly surprised. It's a welcome idea that people should pay taxes to their government. Taxes have been paid worldwide by individuals, earning individuals, companies, corporate bodies to their governments. It's a necessity. It's pretty much quid pro quo between the citizens and the government. The government provides certain amenities, and the individuals fund the government for these amenities. So tax is always, taxing is not a new concept worldwide. However, this innovation of now focusing and clamping down on influencers, well, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting. That's honestly, it's quite an interesting thing, because it's now going to be based on trust. Do we trust the government? That's the real question. Do we trust the government, and what has government provided so far for these influencers to be able to carry out their businesses, for the government to now say, we'll now tax you on these things? So it's a very, very interesting thing, and we're all waiting to see how it goes. Thank you very much.
All right, currently there is no specific tax framework for online creators, online content creators, YouTubers, influencers, and the likes. Doesn't this create some form of ambiguity as to how it's going to happen, and how will they be taxed individually, and the tendency for them to comply even?
Hi, bless you. Happy New Year, person. So it doesn't create an ambiguity, because we can't make it look like online content creators are not earning individuals. They don't need a special category for them to be taxed. It's basically personal income tax. You know, they are receiving an income, and that income usually or should be taxed. So again, it's not like there's no ambiguity being created in this angle. It's just, again, the reason any government in any society, any sane society, or the reason any citizen or any citizen of any society pay tax at all is because they receive benefits from the government. Now, in exchange for this, they pay for these benefits. Like I said in the initial, it's quid pro quo, something for something. Good roads, then 17% of my salary. Because when I step outside and I want to go to that job that I will do the work to get the salary, I drive on tarred road. I am able to iron my shirt on electricity provided by the government, steady electricity. I am able to eat subsidized meals provided by the government. I am protected at night when I make one phone call to the police, because I'm a tax-paying citizen, and my taxes pay the police salary. So when I say, oh, there's a disturbance in my area in the night, not necessarily theft, my neighbor is playing music too loud and I need to go to sleep so I can wake up to go to that job that affords me to pay that tax that you want, the police are around. Police doesn't need to ask me for fuel money to come and handle a civil disturbance in my neighborhood. So it's really a quid pro quo. If we're going to adopt the methods of saner crimes, then we need to also provide the benefits of those saner crimes. Very simple. Thank you very much.
All right. Interestingly, you're a legal practitioner, and I would like you to educate us. What provision is being made other than the law? And if it is specific, maybe you let us know as regards online contents. Are we just relying on the argument that on the provision of the payment, the general payment of taxes, are there provision in the Constitution that specifically talked about regulating or paying, online contents, paying taxes, or social media influencers? Please educate us.
So it's not the Constitution anymore. We can leave the Constitution alone. There's the Personal Income Tax Act. Now, this provides for taxes being paid by income earners. Now, not necessarily salary earners. There are, yes, parameters for salary earners, but it blankets the resources of individuals by calling it income. If I go out now, and Personal Income Tax Act is not limited to just salary earners. Even people who earn, it goes to wages and general incomes. So if I even agencies are like that, when I say agency, I mean like people who are like property agents who will say, oh, I don't have a job, but just all I do is when somebody in this area wants to rent a house, you know, I connect them to the house and I make a percentage. That percentage is supposed to be taxed. But the truth again, and the conundrum, I was listening to the previous segment with the CBN and the dollar and all that, because it was really interesting. And what you would observe in that, and what you would observe in this, and what you'd observe generally about Nigeria and the economy, is that we're always in a conundrum. The government wants to take money, but the government wants to borrow money. But the government has not shown, and honestly, this is just this is with due respect, this is just a constructive criticism. The government, before making certain demands or making certain, putting certain responsibilities on the citizens, has the first-hand responsibility of either showing capacity, track record, or the promise of actually providing the things that are required for you to demand for these things. So there's the Personal Income Tax Act, there's withholding tax, as a matter of fact. All these things go to taxing a person who is earning, to taxing a salary earner, or to taxing an income earner generally. So those things have always been provided before at law, but are not specific to, social media influencers are maybe like, because right now, because the FIRS put out this directive, and it's now looking like social media influencing is a new kind of job or a new kind of work. Not necessarily. They are just salary earners. Before you do a video or a skit, before one of these makers creates one of their contents to put online, they make negotiations. They have agencies some of them have agencies through which they are booked to create their content. These agencies have the framework to either pay tax or to pay withholding tax, or to leave it to the individual to receive his sums and then deduct tax. So the tax structure is pretty much there. We have it. It is just, do we trust our government? That's the conundrum. Do we trust our government enough to provide the amenities for us to pay tax? Because if I pay my taxes, would I have to still pay police 10,000 naira for fuel to come and remove the guy that is trying to break into my building? These are the conundrums that we would always have when it comes down to these issues. Thank you.
Right. Whether government would do its own part, it's one issue. Let's come to the issue of compliance. Now, for the online content creators, a lot of them work as individuals. Now, how is it going to be possible to measure and say this is what you should pay as your tax? Some may get payments for the services that they render directly from those who need your services. Some may go through agencies. Not all of them are big enough to work through agencies. So how's that going to happen? Saying, okay, this is what you should pay per month, or this is what your personal income tax should be.
Okay. So it's like this. Personal income tax, according to the Act, there are parameters. If I can remember, people earning, I think 500,000 pay. It's from 7 to I think 21 or 21%. I think, yes, 27%. Yeah. So it's like this. Yeah, exactly. So we have people earning 300,000 who have to pay 7%. So if your earnings monthly is at 300,000 naira, then what you're supposed to pay is 7% to the government. If your earnings is above 1.6 million, then you're supposed to pay 21% to the government. If your earning is at 500,000 before that, you pay 15 to 19% to the government, depending on maybe below 500,000 or at 500,000. And then for the interesting one, if you earn above 3.2 million monthly, then you have to pay 21%, 24%, yes. So it's between 7 and 24%. Then you find your brackets that you end up in, and then you file your taxes. And these taxes are meant to be paid before the 31st of March every year. So you file your tax returns for the previous year at the 31st of March, declaring that, oh, I, Lai Wasabi, or I, Ash Musi, or I, Debo, or I, Awilo, here, Labouche, earn 200,000 naira per skit. And then for those who their incomes are undetermined, that they just, it's not like they have a determined or a specific type of income, then I think the blanket is, I think they are supposed to pay 1% of what they are totally worth. Yeah. So what you're supposed to do is to file that tax tax statement before the 31st, stating that, oh, this is what I earn, or this is how I earn, and this is what I have remitted from that earning. Thank you very much.
There be cases of some creators under-declaring, since there is no actuary to monitor what they earn.
I didn't get that. I'm sorry.
Wouldn't there be cases of some creators under-declaring their earnings, since there is no actual way to determine what they earn?
Well, there's a way to determine what they earn, actually, because most of these people have their I've forgotten what it's called, something card, their cost card, I think. They have what they charge you for their adverts per day. I mean, Tunde Ednot has his charge for a post or a story.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you're on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.